Welcome back to Beyond H2O, unpacking what we call fact. I'm Noah, and today we're joined by the brilliant Eloise, ready to dive deep into something we often take for granted, the very nature of facts.
Thanks, Noah. It's great to be here. This topic is fascinating because it challenges us to look beyond the surface of what we've always accepted as truth.
Absolutely. We're going to explore how our understanding of facts has shifted dramatically over time, from ancient beliefs about elements to modern scientific discoveries. It really makes you question the stability of what we consider certain, doesn't it?
It truly does. And we'll also touch on how common sense ideas, which can feel so solid, sometimes emerge from criticized cognition and can even vanish entirely. It's a journey into rethinking our fundamental assumptions.
That idea of common sense vanishing is really intriguing, Eloise. Can you give us an example of how something once considered common sense has completely transformed or even disappeared from our collective understanding?
Absolutely, Noah. Think about water. For centuries, it was commonly understood as one of the four fundamental elements. That was just common sense, right? But then modern chemistry came along and revealed it as H2O, a compound of hydrogen and oxygen.
So, the very essence of what water was shifted from a basic element to a complex molecule. That's a profound change in what we consider a fundamental fact.
Exactly, and it highlights how what we perceive as stable, common sense knowledge is actually quite fluid. These ideas, while providing a sense of safety, are subject to change and can indeed vanish over time as our understanding evolves.
It makes you wonder then about the nature of facts themselves. If common sense can be so mutable, what truly anchors a fact?
That's the That's the paradox, isn't it? The concept of a fact is inherently paradoxical. Even denying a fact is in itself a fact. It's a cognitive loop that shows how deeply embedded the idea of fact is in our thinking.
So, common sense offers stability, but it's not necessarily a source of prescriptive knowledge, meaning it doesn't tell us how things should be known or understood, right?
Precisely, common sense acts as a safeguard against complete skepticism, giving us a baseline, but it's inherently irresponsible in the sense that it lacks the authority to prescribe knowledge or tell us how to improve our understanding.
That's a crucial distinction. If common sense isn't prescriptive, what then provides that cognitive authority to make recommendations for knowledge improvement?
That's where world theories come in. These are seen as the only valid sources for cognitive prescriptions. Unlike common sense, which is more about what is, world theories, supported structurally, can make recommendations for how knowledge can be improved without being dogmatic.
So a scientific theory, for instance, isn't just describing, it's also guiding us on how to refine our understanding, offering a specific kind of cognitive improvement.
Yes, exactly. It's a structured approach to knowledge that allows for progress and refinement, moving beyond the often unexamined assumptions of common sense. It's about building a framework for understanding that can be tested and improved upon.
And this brings us back to the fluidity of facts. What was once a common sense element, water, became a scientifically defined molecule, H2O, through the lens of evolving world theories.
It's a perfect illustration. Our understanding isn't static. It's a dynamic process where what we consider fact is constantly being reevaluated and refined, moving from ancient elemental beliefs to modern molecular insights.
That's a fantastic point, Eloise. It really underscores how dynamic our understanding is. But let's dig a bit deeper into common sense itself. You mentioned it provides a sense of safety, even though it's inherently unstable. How does that work?
It's an interesting paradox, isn't it? Common sense offers this feeling of security because it's built on an abundance of cognitive resources. It's what we all generally agree on, or what seems obvious, and that shared understanding provides a kind of mental comfort.
So it's like a default setting for our brains, a baseline that we can always fall back on when things get too complex or uncertain?
Exactly. It acts as a rebuke to complete skepticism. When you're faced with overwhelming doubt, common sense offers a foundational understanding that prevents us from spiraling into total uncertainty. It's a cognitive anchor, if you will.
That makes sense. It keeps us grounded. But you also described common sense as cognitively irritable. What do you mean by that?
Well, the more we scrutinize common sense, the more we often find it lacking in depth. It's like a surface-level understanding that, while useful for daily life, doesn't hold up to rigorous intellectual inquiry. It can become frustrating when you try to push it further.
So it's good for getting by, but not for truly advancing knowledge. It almost implies a point where we stop questioning.
Precisely. There's a quote that says, "Common sense is the highest level of cognition because it is at that point that we give up on ever learning anything." It suggests that when we rely solely on common sense, we might be settling for a comfortable but ultimately limited understanding.
That's a powerful thought. It implies that while common sense offers vitality and protection, it doesn't have the inherent drive to improve itself or guide us to deeper truths.
That's right, it's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell us how to refine our knowledge or what steps to take to understand the world better. It simply offers a current, often unexamined state of understanding.
And that's where world theories come in, as you mentioned earlier. They provide that prescriptive element, that guidance for cognitive improvement.
Yes, structurally supported world theories are, in my opinion, the only valid cognitive sources of prescription. They offer non-dogmatic recommendations for refining knowledge, constantly pushing us to improve our understanding.
So, unlike common sense, which just is, a world theory actively tells us how to do or think better about a subject.
Exactly, and this is where it also differs from something like positivism. While positivism aims for empirical observation, if it tries to prescribe knowledge, it risks becoming dogmatic or even metaphysical, losing its core positivistic nature.
That's a crucial distinction. So, common sense gives us a starting point, a sense of safety, but it's world theories that truly guide us in the ongoing quest to refine and improve what we consider factual.
Absolutely. It's a continuous evolution. What begins as common sense can be challenged, refined, and ultimately transformed by more structured, prescriptive world theories, leading us to a deeper, more accurate understanding of reality.
And that journey, from the seemingly obvious to the scientifically rigorous, is what makes unpacking what we call fact so endlessly fascinating. That journey from the seemingly obvious to the scientifically rigorous is what makes unpacking what we call fact so endlessly fascinating. But it also brings us back to the core of skepticism, doesn't it? If everything can be questioned, where do we even begin to anchor our understanding?
It's a profound question, Noah, and it highlights what I find to be the ultimate paradox of skepticism. Even the act of attempting to escape facts or to deny them entirely is itself a fact.
That's a fascinating loop. So, even the most extreme skeptic, by engaging in skepticism, is inadvertently proving the existence of something factual?
Precisely. Everything we do, say, question, or even deny is inherently a fact. The challenge then isn't whether facts exist, but rather how we define what constitutes a fact, and more importantly, how we determine it.
That shifts the focus entirely. It's not about denying facts, but about the methodology of establishing them. Can you give us a more tangible example of this persistence of fact, even in the face of denial?
Certainly. Think about something as basic as water or a tomato. Even if someone were to completely deny the existence of water, their body would still experience thirst. And if they denied the existence of a tomato, it would still provide nourishment if consumed.
So the physical reality, the basic needs, persist regardless of our cognitive denial. It's almost like common sense in its most fundamental form reasserting itself.
Exactly. It's a powerful illustration of how certain realities are undeniable, even when challenged by extreme skepticism. These basic interactions with the world fulfill fundamental needs, irrespective of our intellectual stance.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, earlier we briefly touched on positivism and its limitations when it tries to prescribe knowledge. How does that fit into this quest for perfect cognition, especially when we're trying to determine facts?
It's a critical point. Positivism, with its emphasis on empirical observation and verifiable data, is incredibly valuable. However, when it attempts to move beyond describing its methods and starts prescribing what knowledge should be, it risks becoming dogmatic or even metaphysical.
So it can overstep its bounds, trying to dictate truth rather than just observe and analyze it?
That's right. Its strength lies in focusing on the cognitive benefits of its methods, how it helps us understand the world through observation and experiment. But if it tries to make general, universal prescriptions about all knowledge, it can lose its empirical grounding.
It sounds like a fine line to walk. How do we pursue a more perfect cognition without falling into either the trap of complete skepticism or the rigidity of dogmatic prescription?
That's where the structured support of world theories becomes so vital. Unlike common sense, which is often unexamined, or positivism, which can become dogmatic if it overreaches, world theories offer a non-dogmatic path to cognitive improvement.